So today, since morning, he has so many meetings, and one meeting was there here and he attended. He was late and he could not reach to his office, and he immediately joined from this department only. And he was here in the department.
Right.
Nirmal, Bhardwaj ji, namaskar. K.N. Tiwari from Kharagpur.
Yes. How are you, sir? Very good evening
fine.
to you, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm fine. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm also okay, sir. In fact, it's very kind of you that I interacted with you a few months back with you and Professor Rintu. I'm
Yeah,
grateful to you that you processed those papers, to send across to Society of the Agricultural Engineers.
No, in this context, I would like to talk to you because whatever we had earlier discussion, and I have something more to say, but not this is it's not the platform where I would like to share. But I will be talking. I'll call you. And,
We can have separate
separate.
meeting on
Separately,
that.
I will
Yes.
call you. And yes, I want to tell you something more.
Yeah. Fair enough. We'll talk about that. Yes.
Yes. So,
But it's a very, in fact, I don't know. Ever since last few years, I feel that I'm increasingly very close to my department, and I am now spending great deal of time in agri and food in comparison to my earlier years of work. And when you all give me an opportunity like this to have a chat, and I end up reading so much that I almost can write an international paper along with you. So
so this is the opportunity. What I would like to tell that this is the thing which is now virtual. But what I feel that yes, had you been here among us, we would have got more and more that advices or guidance or your that intellectual this thing that opinion, so that we could have done a little more than what we are thinking. So we don't always
It's other way. It's madam is other way around. I must correct you. It's other way around.
No, I'm telling
It is my honor.
I want you here.
I would definitely visit you. I'll definitely visit you, and no sooner things normalize. But it's the other way around. It's an honor for me to interact with you people and learn so much from you. So I know very little in comparison to your collective intelligentsia and knowledge. So please, I am your student, and in the chair that you sit.
Like that, but you are expert in your domain and we have expertise in ours. So when we interact with each other, then only something new and something novel comes out. So that is the thing which I
that is for sure. I have lots of idea about how we can take forward IIT Kharagpur and particularly agri and food engineering. And I believe many a time when we have something, we don't know its value. And I can tell you that agri and food engineering department with its various centers in the ecosystem of IIT Kharagpur is perhaps the country's one of the most precious jewel in the field of agriculture and food. And I think we all need to realize that and take it to higher and higher levels. What we have so far collectively done is very little. It is a tip of the iceberg. And I feel very humbled when I have such distinguished academicians with whom I am interacting, and I can work with you. When I look at FAO in Rome, I look at United Nations program, I look at the European Union, I look at African Development Bank, I look at so many institutions. So I think a lot of work.
Yes, and that is the reason why I'm telling that yes, we need your guidance, your assistance, and your continuous support is needed. So that is the thing which I'm telling. I really want that yes, now with this new India and modern India or Atmanirbhar Bharat, so agriculture, food engineering, rural technology center. So I think we can do a lot. So that should be planned in a proper manner. That is very, very important.
I agree.
Until and unless it is done in a proper manner, it is.
I
We
completely
cannot
agree with you,
see.
madam. I completely agree with you. Yes.
So, Shomshubra, should we start?
I think we
Yes,
should go
madam, you
ahead.
In
should.
the meantime,
Whatever you say, I'm fine.
yes, and in the meantime, let Professor Tiwari comes and join.
Okay, sure, madam. Okay, welcome to all of you in this webinar, fourth webinar of our webinar series under the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav initiative taken up by the Government of India to commemorate the 75th year of Indian independence. And today we have amongst us Mr. Nirmal Bhardwaj, Nirmal K. Bhardwaj, and he will be giving a talk on a perspective on agri and food sector in India. Just to give you a brief background of Mr. Bhardwaj, he did his BTech honors from our in Agriculture Food Engineering Department from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, from our institute, 1976 to 1981. And then he did his PGDM from IIM Ahmedabad during 1981 to 1983. And then he served as a group general manager of Churchgate, and then he also served as a managing director for Resurgent from 2002 to 2012. He also served as an executive vice president operation, Nitesh Estate Limited, and he also served. He's a founder and also the chief executive officer of Bengaluru Angels, which is an entrepreneurial ecosystem where startups germinate, grow, and flourish. Currently, he's serving as a CEO of Resurgent, and he's a distinguished alumnus of both our institute as well as IIM Ahmedabad. We are pleased to have Mr. Nirmal K. Bhardwaj amongst us, and we'll be keen to learn from him his experience in the agri and food sector and his explanation on different perspective on this sector. And we have also amongst us our head of the department, Professor Rintu Banerjee, and I would request our head of the department, Professor Banerjee, to officially inaugurate this session. Over to you, Professor Banerjee.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Chakraborty. Thanks to all of you who are attending this particular program. As you all know, that Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is an initiative of our government, the government of India, to celebrate 75 years of progressive India and the glorious history of the people, culture, and the achievements. This Mahotsav has been decided to celebrate with the people of India who are directly and indirectly contributed towards the overall development of our country. This objective of this program is going to make the self-sufficient India, which is otherwise known as that Atmanirbhar Bharat, which our Prime Minister Modi ji has already started this Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we are trying to build up and participating to make our country as Atmanirbhar Bharat. In this context, what I feel that, and I was just discussing that agricultural and food engineering department can play an important role. And along with that, the rural technology, the rural youth, the rural population who are there. So if we can make them self-sufficient, if we can invite and we can make them and enrich them with the proper training, hands-on training, and make them self-sufficient, that is the basic idea of this particular thing, which may help us to achieving the goal of making Atmanirbhar Bharat. In this context, we are also celebrating, we are also inviting the eminent people in this particular area to share their knowledge, their experience with us, with all of you, so that we can we can help the youth to become the self-sufficient. I'm proud to inform you that you have already heard that today's speaker, Mr. Nirmal K. Bhardwaj, who is our illustrious alumnus of this department, of this institute, and he is our invited guest speaker for today's program. And what I feel that when he will be sharing his experience and his prolonged work in this particular area, all of us will be immensely getting benefited. And it will be that the enrichment program for the scientists who are also working in this particular area, or who are also thinking to help the youth in this particular with this area of our research or thinking process. I hope you all will be enjoying his lecture. And what I feel that our director is very busy with some other program, but he will be also he will be joining this program and shortly. And he is also another illustrious alumnus of this particular department and this institute. And he will be also telling something on this particular, and he's the chief guest of today's evening. And he will be also focusing light on this, that how and in which way we should go, so that within a small span of time, we can accrue maximum benefit out of this. So with this few words, I would like to invite our today's guest, Mr. Nirmal K. Bhardwaj, to start his lecture. And anytime our director will be joining, and the moment he joins, then we will have a short break, and then we will have his talk, and then as chief guest, and then Mr. Bhardwaj, he will be continuing. So I would like to take this permission from Mr. Bhardwaj. There may be some interruption if he is not joining within 1 to 2 minutes. So I would like to take this permission from Mr. Bhardwaj.
No, that's perfectly fine, madam. That's fine. No problem.
And I would like to request you to start your program, your lecture. And as soon as Professor Tiwari joins, then we will just break for a short. And he will be just speaking for 2-3 minutes. And he will, I think he will be welcoming you and as chief guest. And then we will continue your lecture.
All right.
With this few words, once again, I welcome you, Mr. Bhardwaj, for today's program. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening to Professor Rintu Banerjee once again. And I really appreciate, and of course, Professor K.N. Tiwari as well. I'm very grateful that I have been invited to this particular event. is very close to my heart for more than one reason. First being that this is the foundation of my career. I see Professor Tiwari is already there, madam. So I think.
Yes, Professor Tiwari has
Yeah,
joined.
good evening, sir. So I think
Yes.
we can have Professor Tiwari ji to say a few words before I start. Yeah.
Yes. So I would like to request Professor Tiwari, B.K. Tiwari, our director of this institute, to say a few words. He is the chief guest of today's evening, and I would like to request him to say a few words on today's evening, this program. Professor Tiwari, please.
Thank you, Professor Banerjee. First of all, I must apologize because the selection committee is going on and I have taken 15 minutes off. That's why instead of 5, it is now 5:15. We are very happy and a great thing is happening in this country from the time our Honorable Prime Minister flagged off on the day of the Dandi March on 12th of March 1930. What has happened? So last March he had flagged off the rally, and in fact, right from that time we are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and this will be about 75 weeks by the time we complete 15th of August 2022. And in this Mahotsav, at least in IIT Kharagpur, several webinars are going on because the government of India wanted that we have to continue these things in order to really celebrate the Azadi in various forms, in different departments, schools, centers, so that people know and people understand what is the importance of this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. What was this, the Azadi which actually we got? People do not know how we got it. In fact, now people have no idea of the troubles and the pains which people had in those times, the martyrs. And this particular institute, already 2 martyrs at this place also. And we are supposed to be the first IIT which has come out of the Agri detention camp, in which 2 of our martyrs, Santosh Mitra and I'm forgetting the name of Sengupta. I think Tarkeshwar Sengupta, sorry. And just the other day, a rally from Shillong to Delhi was going, and they had visited. They were asked to visit IIT Kharagpur and pay homage to these 2 martyrs. So I can tell you that we are very happy that for this particular webinar, which is organized by the Department of Agriculture and Food Engineering by Professor Banerjee and her group. We have one of our distinguished alumnus and very renowned person in his field, Mr. Nirmal K. Bhardwaj, a very brilliant person and a very elaborate speaker. And he's also managing director of Resurgent and Resurgent Technologies, Bangalore. And apart from this, I think he has been a very good friend of IIT Kharagpur from the time he left this institute. So this is one thing which is very notable, that he always tries to help the institute whenever asked for. And in fact, in the ABIC, which is there with us, the foundation, because of the NABARD which we have got, and I can tell you that this has a great, you could say that contribution of Mr. Bhardwaj. I think had he been not be there, I think we would not have got the money from NABARD, because he leveraged his friendship with the BEAD and DMD, and we could get. Of course, there is a credential of the project as well, but I think we should not take away the credit of our very beloved Nirmal K. Bhardwaj ji. And we are very happy that Bhardwaj ji, you have agreed this time, although we would have loved to see you here and talk to in front of us. But the pandemic has created such a thing that we are not in a position to meet. But hopefully within next 3 to 4 months, we will be in a position to meet. And we would like to hear you. I'm sure that many of our friends who are there on the link which has been given to YouTube as well, possibly. And the many friends, students, faculty members who are listening, I think they will be benefited because of your talk, which you have chosen as a perspective on agri and food sector in India. It is very much relevant in today's concerns and in the perspective of what is happening in the country today. We are supposed to be the sufficient in food production, but I think with the growing population, we need to double the farmer's income and hence to see that the farmer produces as maximum as possible, not only in the form of grain, but in the form of other activities or other businesses, agri businesses, which he should take up in order that he becomes, he doubles or maybe triples his income. And for that, in fact, the whole country, many of the people who are working in different other branches are also coming up with technologies which will help us in multiplying or in enhancing the production of various crops, whether you are talking of the crops of cereal crops, fruit crops, vegetable crops, or plantation crops. I think there has to be a multi-pronged approach. Then only our country will be something of the order of what we are expecting to be Atmanirbhar in the years to come, and it will be a Biswaguru, which it was supposed to be some thousands of years back. So with this, I think I welcome all people who are here. I can see my faculty friends, my students, and other who are joined this link from wherever in this part of the country or abroad. I welcome each one of you. And I also welcome Sri Nirmal K. Bhardwaj ji for his lecture on a perspective on agri and food sector in India. Thank you very much. Best of luck.
Thank you. I wish to thank,
Yes, Mr. Bhardwaj, if you can continue.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Tiwari.
Thank you. Okay.
Good evening.
I'll be here for up to another 8 minutes, Bhardwaj ji. So I would love to hear you for another 8 minutes. Then I'll go. Okay, please.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm very grateful to Dr. V.K. Tiwari, who is the Honorable Director of the Institute and also my senior alumnus from the same department. I'm so grateful to him that not only he is spearheading the Institute at present times, but ever since I have known, while even on the campus, he was my 2-year senior. And I've always seen him very energetic, a thorough academician. And I have seen him during the several decades. And something as recent as 2016, when I was part of his team, we set up one of the international seminar and a 3-day program called Emerging Technologies in Agricultural Engineering. That book of the deliberations of that particular conference, his own authored book in precision agriculture, adorns my library, and I refer it from time to time. Professor Tiwari, personally, I have seen him. I have never seen him being reluctant or losing any time in any initiative. And I think we are blessed that we have somebody like Professor Tiwari, who has given all his life on the IIT campus till date. And I think he's doing a great job. And we all here are there to support him in whichever way possible. His mention about NABARD is just a one step in that direction. We have a lot of other things to do together. And that would benefit the institution in a much bigger way. And agri and food engineering will also be in the center stage, not only in the institute, but also even on the national arena. In this context, I will just take a minute or two to first tell you the stage as to how relevant has been my experience in agri and food. I spent 7 to 8 years of my initial career when I worked with Tata Group. And I worked at that time in agro-industrial products division. And during my stint with Tata Group, I had traveled closer to 90% districts and taluk headquarters of this country, except for the northeastern states. So I can tell you that I almost can smell the soil in each district and each town as it exists. Thereafter, I also had an opportunity to spend time in Europe, US, and in Africa. And among the many things that I was doing, I was in one way or the other linked with agriculture, international trade, even aquaculture, and so on and so forth. More so since last decade after I came back to India, I have been very, very closely working with my department, Agri and Food, and my own career seems to be taking shape in a direction where food and agriculture takes the larger chunk of my activities. I must tell you right away that we will be inviting Professor Tiwari to launch a book, which will be Professor Tiwari will be the chief guest, and the name of the book is A Comprehensive Approach in Increasing Yield and Quality in Coffee. And I'm happy to tell you that this 150-page document that we have put together is written by me along with the 4 students of our very department who've been interns with us. So the point I'm trying to make to you is that my interaction with the faculty and students is at multiple levels, and therefore we would continue to work together. Talking about today's topic, a perspective on food and agriculture in India, I have some very broad takeaways. 2050, the projected population in India is 1.7 billion people, and our food demand is going to increase by 70%. We are also going to be the world's most populated country by 2050. While this is true, it is also very sad that 1/4 of the world hunger is also in India. 195 million people go hungry all the time. It shows how critical is our agri and food sector in India. What is also very important is that the National Food Security Mission that we have today is examining how was agricultural sector in 1947 and how is it today. In 1947, the GDP contribution of agri and food was to the tune of 54%. And in 2017, it is down to 13%. Obviously, great deal has been achieved, but at the same time, yet lot needs to be done. There is an absolutely no better occasion than celebrating 75 years of our independence, Azadi Ka Amrit. And believe you me, what we have achieved in 75 years is very, very commendable. But in as much as we have covered a long journey, we still have a long journey to go ahead. As I see this, our per capita food grain per year in 1951 was around 144 kgs per year. It jumped in 1971 to 175 kgs per year. But since last 50 years, we've been stagnant in terms of the per capita food grain availability on per year basis. The reason being, whatever food grain production increase has taken place in last 50 years has been usurped by the increase in the population in the country. So no matter how much more of food grain are we producing, it is just sufficient for the increasing population. It is also very important to say that while the food grain production which has increased is predominantly in wheat and rice, whereas we still fall short in a lot of nutritious food which comes from pulses, cereals, and millets. So being food grain sufficient does not imply that we are nutritionally sufficient. So there is a huge gap in terms of producing the food grain, which is enough for us to keep filled up in terms of our food requirements. But equally important is to have a nutritious food. Our Honorable Prime Minister, which I'm very proud, at least in our lifetime, we have a leader of the country who has really, really catalyzed the processes on many fronts. We are very privileged that on 28th of February 2016, he came up with a mission of doubling income of the farmers in the country in a very quick and a time-bound manner. I think this was very appropriate and most urgently called for.
Kind of
When we look at
some kind of a document of a property and things like that, and on top of that, they'll charge you 8, 9, 10, 11%. As a business owner, for the money that you're investing or you're
so we must appreciate that today every district, every taluk headquarter, and every village is doing a cognitive mapping as to what can be the major crop or a cluster of crops that can emanate from that particular district, and we go forward. We also must realize that the farmers have been going through a lot of duress because their viability of their enterprise in the agriculture sector has not been self-sufficient. It is for this reason there have been a lot of strikes, like the tomatoes and onions being dumped on the Indian roads. The milk has been let out in the drains to only demonstrate that they have not been so happy, because after so much of labor and toil, they still feel that their income is not sufficient and self-sustaining. What we must also understand that agri and food sector is so critical that even today we have 11.9 crores of households which are dependent only on agriculture. This has almost increased by 60%, because way back in 1951 it was only 7 crore people, families were dependent. What is even more important is that the landless agricultural labor, closer to 2.7 crore such laborers were looking for job in agriculture in 1951, but in 2011 more than 15 crores of landless labor is dependent on agriculture sector. Now when we look at doubling the farmer's income and making it viable, what we must understand is that there is a whole host of factors which come into play when we want to increase the farmer's income. So I'm going to restrict our discussion or my presentation to the role of science and technology in food and agriculture. I wouldn't be all encompassing and talking about so many other factors. What we must understand is that in 1970, 70% of the working population was employed in India was in agriculture. And 30 years later, in 2004, we have issue where the net income of the farmers has gone down substantially. Their livelihood is no longer sustainable. The youth participation in farming is dwindling. The post-harvest activities have become a bigger problem, and the need for single market has been felt very acutely than ever before. What we also need to understand is that it is not just the central government which can propel the food and agriculture sector forward. Agriculture in the Constitution of India is on a concurrent list where the central government and the state governments have to work hand in hand. As per entry number 33 in the Constitution, the states have to play an equally important and predominant role along with the central government to promote food and agriculture. So this is an effort where all the states of the country, the union territories, and the central government will have to work hand in hand and ensure that this sector moves forward. We have made a lot of progress in terms of there are hopcoms, there are retail markets, there are supermarkets, there are now e-commerce trade, and so on and so forth. I think, in my opinion, the one fundamental thing that we need to realize that a country as large as India cannot so easily have one unified market, because each state is perhaps a country by itself. Each state has a different topography. Each state has a different meteorological data, by and large. So therefore, to amalgamate this, just because politically we are a one country, it does not mean we should lose an eye in detail. But yes, we still must aggregate all the states' agriculture and food production and marketing plans together with the country's larger plan. But within that, the uniqueness of a state level or even district level Agri and food has to be seen as a standalone oasis, which is a part of a larger landscape. We'll be making a very big mistake if we were trying to club the whole country, because you look at the diversity of the country itself. Like in Tamil Nadu, you have paddy, in Punjab, you have wheat, you have in northeastern states, maybe you have turmeric, you look at Deccan Plateau, maybe you have plantations. So we are a very large and diverse continent, and therefore unification of the one market should not be oblivious to the fact that each crop, each commodity in agriculture sector has its unique requirements, starting from what type of soil you need, what type of inputs you need, what type of value additions you need, and how you're going to market it in India and abroad. So there are very, very unique stories about each and every commodity, which we must not be oblivious to. I also would like to say that when, as agriculture scientists and technologists, we proffer various solutions of how to increase our productivity and how to reduce our cost, it's very important to see where we are. In paddy, our India's average production is 3,576 kg per hectare. We are below world's average, which is at 4,546. And the highest in China, it is 6,832 kgs per hectare. So we are half the level, which is the world's highest. Same is the story in wheat. Germany, for instance, produces 8,634 kgs per hectare, where India is still at 3,144. But of course, we have now inched on a world's average, but we have a long way to still go to be the number one. Maize, USA produces 10,744 kgs per hectare, and we are just at a 25% level. In pulses and other cereals, as you know, that we are lagging far behind. In fact, there is a net shortage, and we are even importing this. In Canada, 2,031 kgs per hectare is the pulses output, whereas in India is a meager 20-25% of that, 659 kgs per hectare. Groundnut in US per hectare output is around 4,397 kgs, and in India we have 1,400 kgs per hectare. It is not to say that the kind of economies of scale that operate in Germany or in US or in Canada obviously don't operate in India because of the fractioned and smaller landholding size, and even the mechanization that exists in those countries we don't have in India. So there are issues. So it is not that we need to just blindly emulate and put this data in juxtaposition to where India is. We have our own unique nuances, but yet there is a scope for us to improve. Let's also look at, for instance, some of the issues which we as scientists are oblivious to. I was just reading today, in fact, because last week itself, worldwide, the phosphoric acid and ammonia price went up. And net result was the price of manufacturing DAP, which is diammonium phosphate fertilizer, went up. And how much it went up? It was 1,900 rupees a bag. It went up to 2,400 rupees a bag. The farmer can't afford this kind of a thing. So immediately the government of India stepped in and increased the subsidy by closer to nearly 500 to 800 rupees a bag, just to maintain the same price for the farmers. Now, this kind of money, excuse me, that government of India has been pumping in is very, very large. Today, for us to have chemical fertilizer being available to the farmers at a fixed price or at a reasonable price, government of India pumps in subsidy of 80,000 crores. I was just asking myself a question. Is there a substitute for DAP fertilizer? I'm not sure whether any research is happening in IIT Kharagpur, but I must tell you that University of Andhra Pradesh Chemical Engineering Department and Indian Institute of Mineral Engineering, IIME, have come up with a substitute for DAP called PROM. Now, PROM stands for phosphate-rich organic manure. Now, imagine if we want to be sensitive to the price increases that happen in the chemical industry for our chemical fertilizer, which are obviously internationally driven prices, but why can't we also work simultaneously as a substitute for this chemical fertilizer industry? Why imagine recently there was a program where in order to augment the farmer's income, 20,667 crores were funded. In fact, this amount of money was credited directly to the farmer's account. My submission is, can we release that 80,000 crores subsidy that is being given to a fertilizer industry and maybe another 20,000 crore to micronutrient manufacturers? Can we, as a science and technology Makkah, can we try and create alternatives which are more organic in nature and have a far less price? Now, this has to make our agri and food engineering professors, policymakers, and other people to realize that agri and food has to work along with the chemical engineering. They have to work along with the mineral engineering department, because this is a time of hybrid knowledge. So it is not just a unified, univectoral substitute that agri and food engineering department can only create as a substitute for DAP. I just gave you a case in point. Now, you also know that huge damage has been done by the chemical use of fertilizers because it is leading to the hardening of the soil. It is decreasing the soil organic matter and is also reducing the pH value and making it acidic. Now, how much of soil that is getting wasted is a natural asset of the country? And for your information, agriculture is the largest enterprise the country has. It is the largest company by itself. And you have national resource, be it land, be it other water resources, they're all available to us. And this is an asset. And who's protecting it? Who's the owner of this? Obviously, it's the sovereignty of the country. And who are the managers and the players of this? The farmers, the academicians, the policymakers, the banks. So all of us are stakeholders in this. Now, I think it's very important that we realize that these assets not only need to be flogged and leveraged to create food grain, which all of us need, we also need to preserve this. We also need to make sure this is sustainable for our generations to come. This cannot be destroyed. I was just doing a recent study and I found that the carbon, okay, first let me tell you, 24 billion tons of a fertile soil is getting lost in erosion itself. You know that on the crust of an earth, how long it takes for the soil to be formed, how slow is it a process, right? And that soil which is on the crust of the earth and the humus which blends together to create the natural fertility of the soil, 24 billion tons of this soil is being lost in erosion every year. And the carbon fixation that exists on the planet Earth, 4,000 billion tons of the carbon is in the soil itself. And in the whole of atmosphere, it is merely 800 billion tons in the form of a carbon dioxide. And all the forests that we're talking about do not have more than 360 billion tons of a carbon in a biomass of the greenery of the forests. So we as agricultural engineers and scientists who know the wherewithals and means how to preserve our soil, in this planet, 24 billion tons of a fertile soil is being lost. Now we realize how important it is for us to follow practices of soil and water conservation, the one department that exists there. We are the people who have to preserve in India that our loss of the fertile soil by way of erosion itself has to be curtailed. And if you see the story of an African continent, for your kind information, 8.2% of the soil that got eroded in Africa has resulted in a food grain reduction to an extent of around 10%. So if we are going to not protect the natural assets which we have, which is non-renewable geosource, is a non-renewable geosource because the soil of which we are the custodians has happened after thousands of years of evolution of the earth. The thin layer that you see on the crust of the earth, this has to be preserved. And the onus lies on we as the scientists and engineers. Let's also look at, many a time we talk about that I'm doing this, I've done this research. I have a big challenge for the academicians in the field of agri and food. I want to just ask you, when you do research and when you do a pilot project, I really want to see that how many professors themselves have created how many acres of an oasis where their experimentation and whatever they have written is implemented. Let me give you an example. An engineer learns engineering and goes and produces a car, and the car runs on the road and you drive it. An aeronautical engineer studies aeronautical engineering and goes and creates a Boeing and you see plane flying. You see a doctor, you become a doctor, even when you're studying medicine, you go to the operation theater and you see somebody's heart being operated there. So you become a cardiologist. I have a big problem with academicians, and that is this. Whatever time you spend in scientifically analyzing, doing your pilot project, your concept of the proof and the thesis that you create and international papers that you write, I want you to find the agri-rural entrepreneurs and choose a particular place, whether it is in a village or a town or a district or wherever. Please go and demonstrate whatever you are saying. And how does it help and who does it help? Does it increase yield? Does it provide a substitute for my inputs? Does it help me not to lose the various factors of production that I have, be it water conservation, be it soil conservation, be it avoiding erosion, and so on and so forth? How does it help and how does it help? Unless that is done, we will all remain in silos. At the end of the day, if agriculture is one of the largest enterprise, then it must have to have a P&L account. Thankfully, the sovereignty of the country has given you this asset for which we didn't invest, because we have this land, which is our motherland, the country. Country has states and we are the custodians of the land. So we got this asset, which we are flogging day in and day out, year after year to take the yield out of it. But my question is, neither the people and the stakeholders who are involved are happy, because they are not the richest people. They are not even self-sustaining. On the other hand, the people who are taking subsidy for us to run these enterprises are spoiling this whole geo asset, which is owned by the sovereignty of this country and under the care of agrarian society. I think what we must realize is that this pandemic taught us what it means when you can't breathe, right? Every time we put a mask on our face and our nose, we realize that how tough it was, right? It almost has perhaps changed our structure of the brain and body itself, which we will realize in the generations to come. Imagine if you don't have food. I do not believe it's about kapda and makan. If there's no makan, you can go to caves, fine. Kapda also I don't need. We'll manage. We'll wrap ourselves with whatever we can. But without air and food, you can't survive, right? So why are we so callous in not caring for this asset? We have a huge natural capital investment in the land which we have, and we must preserve. And the people who are feeding us, and let me tell you, sometimes the price of petrol goes up, we all start crying. But when the government of India gives 80,000 crores to continue to produce the chemical fertilizers on which our yield depends and feeds us, we don't take cognizance of that and we don't clap. Why? We must. We as scientists and engineers are failing. Can we make our agri and food is not making profit? And what happens when a company doesn't make a profit? When a company doesn't make a profit, it goes for a bankruptcy. Is Indian food and agriculture bankrupt to an extent of 1 lakh crores of rupees, which Indian government is giving a subsidy? When will we as scientists and engineers will absolve this sector or our agricultural enterprise away from this subsidy? Subsidy is making our business unviable. So imagine if you unleash this 100,000 crores, come up with, instead of DAP, you come up with a PROM or whatever other substitutes you have. We have failed in creating substitutes. So we must create the substitutes. Whichever are we have to plug our costs. And at the same time, another thing I notice is that an agriculture sector is so fragmented that farmer will produce, one broker will come and take his produce, he will go and pass on the hands to other people, and everybody who's a broker in the deal is making money except for the farmer, who gets his transfer price, what we call as a MSP now, the minimum support price. Why should farmer have a minimum support price? Why can't he have a maximum support price? Why can't he have the highest price that is possible for his commodity? Why can't he have that? So yes, he cannot have that, because since it's a need and a necessity, and farmer does not have a wherewithal and does not have a lobby as large as that, so he can't hoard the goods. So he can't work like a trader. But where is the rural entrepreneurship? We have so many agricultural universities, we have so many forestry colleges, we have so many plantation institutions, but all these people want employment where? In one of the curtain glass companies in one of the urban centers. Why? Have you analyzed this? The reason is there seems to be a glamour to have a Mac computer and do a coding and sit in an air conditioning office. Till very recently, when pandemic told that you should not even put your ACs on because you should not breathe the same air, because the bacteria is more and you could get infected. So look at the nature's own checks and balances. 80% of the companies have told that go and work from home. Now tell me one good reason. Why can't you live in a village, have your Wi-Fi connectivity? In the morning, you go and work, grow vegetables and fruits and whatever. In the afternoon, you go and do your coding. Who's stopping you? In doubling farmers' income, one of the key things that have been talked about is that the farmer can have a farm income and non-farm income. So what is the non-farm? What is this non-farm income? To my mind, this non-farm income is not just to do some cattle grazing and put a dairy also and limit within that agriculture and dairy and fisheries, because that is a different segment. No. To my mind, and this is what I'm working on, imagine if I give you 10,000 square feet of a land in Andhra Pradesh, 200 kilometers away from, say, Bangalore, and put one pota cabin or a small little place where you operate and make sure that it is having a proper Wi-Fi connectivity. And if you are a farmer, tell me, you have your house problem solved. You have a piece of land of 10,000 square feet of a land on which your farmhouse is created. Why can't you still be an employee of TCS or Infosys? Where is this dichotomy which has come about, that I can't live in the land, I can't live far away from the city, and I can't still be very swanky tech guy? Who created this? Is our own psyche. We have to demolish this psyche. I know of so many IITians, running into hundreds of them. What they do in Bangalore, they will work on Monday to Friday, and Friday they will go to their plantation in tea, coffee, or whatever else they do, or do arkanut. This is what we need to realize. So the tech, the entrepreneurship, the getting best out of the small piece of land, and doing all that is being preached in our papers has to be implemented by the brilliant and the most intelligent people, and take pride in the fact that we are self-sustaining. Don't make agriculture sustainable, make yourself sustainable. And it is a luxury, what we call in management a system of slack. We have so much of a surplus land which is not optimized. We are not getting the yields which have to be extracted out of that small per square feet of a land, not in acres of land or in hectares of land. I was speaking to some of the architects in New York, and they're talking about today's time, hydroponics, and what you have that in the balconies in the New York of your house and apartment, you should create enough vegetables to sustain your family. And here we are in India, every time you go away from the urban center, as long as the real estate development is happening, everything is fine. All curtain glass, tall buildings, apartments, and everything. People are willing to take upon themselves loans which they will not be able to settle in their lifetime. But they are not willing to go even just 1 hour drive away from the city and live in that village. Why? Mindset. Within the city of Bangalore, which is a diameter of 100 kilometers, you start from Devanahalli Airport and go to Hosur, you're willing to be in your car for 3 hours. And in 3 hours, I can travel 300 kilometers between Bangalore, Hyderabad highway. Is again the mindset. Please understand. So I think the problem is our multitasking that we are talking about is not only limited to your home, it also has to be limited to the sources of income and the assets at your disposal that you're trying to leverage. I'm surprised that, let me just give you an example. Talking about enterprise and business. Today morning, I was reading a report. Do you know that the first time in the history of the mankind, at least during my generation, I'm sure earlier it wasn't that high anyway, 24 billion US dollars have been invested worldwide in just H1, which means the first half of the financial year, $24 billion have been invested in agri and food sector. Do you even know these companies? But today, if you see our IIT graduates, what are they doing? They're learning data analytics, they're learning some coding because they want a job in an IT company. But they are not aware that there are companies, which I will give you the names: e-grocer, midstream tech, in-store restaurant technology, innovative food, cloud retail infra, ag biotech, novel farming systems, farm management sensing, IoT, bioenergy, farm robotics, mechanization and other farming and agribusiness market. $24 billion have been raised by these companies and all focus in agri and food. Are they not using a technology? Why is it that you want to be so generic that I want to create a finacle for a banking and finance sector, but I don't want to use my agri and food engineering knowledge and yet be more tech than the biggest tech that you can talk about? And the beauty is that out of this 24 billion which got invested, and this is incidentally last week report, USA got 9.5 billion US dollar, China got 4.5 billion dollar, and India got $2 billion. I would like to know how many IITians or other agri universities or life sciences related people are working in this field and have tapped this $2 billion. Please understand that agri and food is a universe. How to grow mangoes does not teach you how to grow coffee, and how to grow coffee doesn't teach you how to manage tea. You have a wide spectrum of clusters, and each of these clusters you can spend your lifetime and yet learn very minuscule stuff out of that. It is not a generic knowledge. Like if I know Java, I can do coding across the sectors. In agriculture, there is a generic knowledge, of course, but beyond generic knowledge, you also need a domain expertise. Like each of these companies in IT sector you look at, they will hire software engineers, but they will create a product like Finacle, which is used in banking sector. Similarly, in agri and food, we must have a generic knowledge, but within that, we have to have an expertise. So the point I'm trying to make to you is, a lot is being talked about, many cliches: integrated pest management, which we use as IPM. We talk about integrated nutrient management, INM, integrated disease management, which is called IDM. But I want to know, can I please go and visit this farm where this is? Which scientists are working there? Who is doing the work? Conceptual framework cannot remain on paper. It has to be translated on ground. It has to be tangibly demonstrated. It can't just remain an intellectual exercise to flow in the printouts and software and your PPTX presentations. No. I think the time has come. In fact, I am expounding today. In fact, if you ask me, somebody like me who's been in the project management, is an agri food engineer, I am today telling to all my friends, why should you invest 1.5 crore of rupees in a 3-bedroom pigeonhole in Bangalore or in Bombay in a real estate. Why? Why can't you go on the outskirts of it, continue to float your top tech company that you can ever think of, but at the same time live in a farmhouse? Maybe with a 1.5 crores of rupees, you can have 200 acres of a mango garden for all I care. So I think I must tell you that that wave is catching on. 10 years down the line, you will find the people who are big tech guys are also growing pomegranates in the rural areas. They're also managing plantations. They're also managing other vegetables and fruits. So I think this dichotomy that has existed, oh, my branch is not good, I have to do this, I have to do that. Please appreciate, I just gave you an example. To find and substitute of DAP itself, you need a mineral engineer, you need a chemical engineer, and you need an agri-food engineer. Then only you can release the sufferance of the farmers to invest so much money in that chemical fertilizer industry in which the government itself is draining 80,000 crores of rupees. We should close that off because that is petroleum linked, right? In fact, when I was reading this, I had to remember my H3PO4 formula, the phosphoric acid, right? So, but where is PROM? I have not taught PROM. We should. Are we implementing it? Is there any research happening that PROM is a substitute for DAP? Please give it to me. I'll buy it and I'll give it to the areas where I work, right? So, having said this, other major area that I find is missing in agriculture is value addition. Look at it. Have you ever bought a leaflet of a Patanjali? Somebody has done such nice cognitive mapping, what raw material is grown, what medicinal plant is there, what biological positive differences make, what is the efficacy of the medicine you take, and then they tell you, keep away from all these chemical or biomolecules, etc. Whatever is coming from Mother Earth, please use that, and this has been used over decades. Makes a lot of sense. And look where the company is. Nobody talks about that company's valuation. And when did it start? Not very long ago, right? We all know this. I was sitting with one day a scientist in Paris a few years ago. And at that time, I was overseeing one of the largest fisheries companies operating in the West Africa. I had 48 deep sea fishing trawlers, and we were catching these prawns, which used to go under the name of a tropical prime in Amsterdam and then get distributed to whole of Europe. This friend of mine tells me, sir, what do you do with the shells of the prawn? I said, we just dispose it off. He said, no. It has a cellulose. And I said, what do you do with this? He said, if you take this shell of the prawn, you can do a certain chemical processing. There is a IPRS out there, and then you can produce a chemical called chitosan. And chitosan is a $4 billion trade, which is used in the cosmetic industry in Paris itself. So you imagine the shells of a prawn, if processed, can extract chitosan, and chitosan is an ingredient to all these, various kind of cosmetic products that you see that. I don't need to name them, right? So what we did, we gave them several container loads of that particular shell, and we tied up with an Indian company called Castle Rock Fisheries and set up in Porbandar a chitosan plant, and the scientist that I was talking to in Paris was made the head of that. And that chitosan, which was extracted, was imported back into Paris. Now, is that not aquaculture or fisheries? It is. In fact, I must tell you, other day I was reading, everybody talks about, for instance, about coffee drinking. So one day I was sitting with, incidentally, that happens to be part of not Agri and Food, is a part of a commerce ministry. You know why? Because it's a cash crop. And during 1990s, we had a severe shortage of foreign exchange, and therefore it was very highly protected industry because it was being exported and a lot of foreign exchange was coming from there. One single pest called stem borer has destroyed the complete Arabica in this country. 70% of what Britishers left behind has been destroyed in the last 75 years because we have not been able to find how to deal with a stem borer who attacks the plant. And India, which was known for its coffee because of Arabica, moved away from Arabica to Robusta because that is more pest resistant. So it's like saying, I don't have a solution how to protect my asset, so I will resort to something which can be taken care of by itself. That's a failure of a scientificism. That is a failure of a nation which must protect its asset. It's our duty to pass it on to our generations, right? But we have no Arabica. And not only that, after so many years of this production of this crop itself, we are still struggling. Some of the top Indian corporates, big names, do not produce more than 400 kgs per hectare. Whereas right under our nose in Brazil, the production is 1.2 tons per hectare. So which level should I see? So I think all we are looking forward to is a big fusion of the intelligentsia. Now to start realizing that for you to be sustainable, your careers cannot be sustainable only by your skills. Your all life you study and then you seek a job and hope to buy an asset which you want to sustain. And I'm saying that right under your nose, the needs that you have, and one of the paramount ones is the food. At least you become sustainable from food itself. How many of us have any smallest piece of land where all our needs can be taken care of? That can we start with that process? No, we want to earn money in a common denominator in dollars, and then I want to go to the rest of the world and buy it. Fine. But who told you that agriculture itself does not earn green bucks? Look at the commodity exchanges. Look at MCX and CDEX in India itself. 59,000 and odd is the today Sensex jumping. Just April, it was only 33,000. How do you know that today, if the phosphoric acid has become so very expensive that the DAP price has gone up by 60 to 70%, where is DAP coming from? Where is phosphoric acid coming from? And are you trying to say that in this very country, are you not importing pulses? Are they not linked with the international prices? If government of India today withdraws 80,000 crores of rupees of a subsidy to the chemical fertilizers, the whole agriculture will get into the red. Farmers will stop producing anything. You will stop getting even maybe the tomatoes and potatoes. So please don't underestimate that something given to you is free. And we will talk. The onus lies on us jointly and severally to make sure that we ourselves, the country can only become sustainable if each household is sustainable. And household is sustainable if all the members of the household have resources at their disposal that it meets all their needs. That is what sustainability is. And to add on, you leave behind for the future generations to come to sustain that. That means the quality of asset is not deteriorating over a period of time. You can throw away a car after 15 years because put it into the salvage, but can you throw away the land after 15 years and say, look, now I'm done with it? No. This has to sustain several generations like the way we got it, right? As Homo sapien race, are we protecting it? And the world of discerning people, I must tell you, they are willing to pay the premium to the people who are protecting this Mother Earth. It is for this reason that the coffee produced by tribals in Odisha has much more value. The produce produced in Brahmgiri is now being sourced in Switzerland because the world has woken up that they don't want to deal with the people who are destroying this planet. There's a huge movement happening on that front. So sooner we wake up and protect this asset, better it will be. So I'm not saying that there's the time to come, whole host of technologies, be it IoT. Somebody was telling me that today you can put sensors in the soil and you can get a complete profile. Today you can do a hyperspectroscopy, and what our eyes cannot see, there are cameras which will give you different shades of green, and you can even project as to what kind of yield you will get and what kind of inputs you should spend. So the long and short of the whole story, ladies and gentlemen, that I have to present, I have a lot of work I've done, I studied, and thanks to you all because you wanted me to speak in the process. If anybody has benefited, it's me myself, because I ended up reading so much, learning so much, and I'm saving my notes to maybe present it another day when I meet you or discuss in another forum. But takeaway from this is that agri and food is my basic necessity. And we all have an onus to protect this asset, which is a sovereign asset, which is a natural asset. And this asset is so precious that it will not only destroy us if we don't take care of it, it will also extinguish our future generations to come. Protect it, sustain it, monetize it, add value, and make it one of the most thriving and vibrant enterprise you can ever think of. And I have no doubt in my mind, farmers are not viable, not because they can't be viable. So-called seemingly the stakeholders in this particular process are the biggest businessmen who are taking away the farmer's share. If the farmer was to get a percentage of the last end product with the highest value add, farmer will be the richest man. That much I can tell you. So same way, it is just that farmer does not have infrastructure, farmer does not have rural entrepreneurs, farmer does not have an access to put a container load and ship it to Germany directly. Imagine one fine day, if one of you go and start living with the tribals in Odisha and set up your company and say, this is a tribal owned coffee exporting company. I can guarantee you that you will not even have a kilo of a coffee left. The whole world will buy from you. You know why? Because there's a content, there's a story, is organic, is traceable, it is secure, it is going to be cultivated in the most thriving parameters that you can ever think of. It's going to taste different. That much also I can tell you. So I think what we are lacking is academicians demonstrating in the field. We are desperately lacking the rural entrepreneurs, and we are in silos, and the time has come that you can carry your Mac laptop, you can still do your coding, but do your tech in food and agri and take that forward. This $24 billion which have come in last 6 months in food and agri sector, the names that I just read out to you, they're no different than the biggest of the companies you can ever think of in tech field. Many a time, what is right under our nose, we don't realize its value. So I'm all for multiple facets. You choose the commercial crops, you can use horticulture, you can do floriculture, you can do aquaculture, you can do poultry, you can do livestock, you can do animal husbandry. All this is a part of food and agri, and you will find that the linkages of this is a larger universe, and it is high time that we value this. And incidentally, this also happens to be the sovereign wealth, and this must not go waste, in as much as today a mint of a gold is creating gold reserves. Similarly, this soil, these crops, this food that we are producing is not only meant for domestic consumption, and most importantly, we may be sufficient grain wise, quantity wise, nutrition wise we're still not. 1/4 of the world's hunger is in India. So what are we taking pride in? Pride we must take. And we owe this on this occasion of Azadi Ka Amrit. We should be thankful. We should, prostrate and bow down to those martyrs who gave us this country to protect. How many of us even know, we talk about predictability of monsoons, but how many of you have really read how monsoons are created and how Coriolis force acts, and how from the southern hemisphere, this rains start from the Malabars and go right up to Khasi Garo Hills. And imagine if Himalaya didn't exist, what will this island be? These are the gifts of God. These are the gifts of nature that have been given. And we as educated people, even the institutions where we are sitting, they are our sovereign wealth. How much of money is being invested by the country in us? And are we not a larger family which has to protect this asset? Why should I be so mean and inward looking to look at where I live, what my house is, how my car is, what wealth my family has, what my net worth has? What is the net worth of my country? This is an asset. This is our common asset. This is our collective asset. And let me tell you, we are chasing those assets which some people have created so much of augmentation around the core that the real core, the land itself, lying in abundance and unlooked after, we don't even look at it. But a small piece of land on the 10th floor, which has the undivided share on the land, maybe around 150 square feet, I'm willing to put 2 crores of rupees and 1.5 crore because I have an apartment in Bangalore. Why? How does it make a difference if I live in Penekonda, which is 80-90 kilometers away, or live in Chikbalapur village, which also I will take shorter time than you will take to come from Indiranagar to MG Road? It's in the mind. is all in the mind, and somebody is brainwashing the most educated people not to look beyond their blinkers, because there's a huge lobby of the real estate developers. As and when the time is going by, they're going on increasing prices. How many Indians on an average who are engineers or doctors for the matter can afford 2 crores of a white money to buy this thing? And how many years of their life they'll be committing in? So why can't we all be farmers, have our own produce, invest in our this thing? Imagine, instead of investing 2 crores in a one pigeonhole apartment in an urban center, go and live in a farmhouse. It's a beautiful life. You breathe fresh air. You still are a part of city. Live on a periphery of a city, but not in the heart of city in downtown. So having said this, I think I'm all open at any point in time for anybody to have an opposite thought, and I will leave this open for any questions that you may have. But I think we have done a lot. There's a reason for us to pat ourselves, but unfortunately our population is growing so fast, our resources are so less, our reserves are what they are. But this point of inflection that we have right now in the world, with the changing constellation of forces around us, be it political, be it economic, and so on and so forth, I think time has come that we all worked in unison. But don't look at something very macro. Either I change the whole country or I will not do something in my own village. I think if each one of us start doing in a smaller habitats and locales and villages, it is a lot easier to connect the dots when there are many oases around. And it is a big problem. And it's a big problem and huge inertia when we have to do something which is as large as a country as a whole. So I think we should start making differences in wherever we are. We should start contributing wherever we are and then connect it. So with this, I like to conclude. I think I've taken more time than perhaps was allocated, but I just lost track in the process. But I will leave this open for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bhardwaj, for your enlightening lecture. And this session is now open for discussion and open for your questions. If you have any questions, please, you can ask.
Yes, I think Dinesh Biti has already raised his hand long back. I don't know whether he is there or not.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, Dinesh.
Yes.
Good evening to all.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Means I am asking for that if the price of these agriculture commodities, if the price will enormously increase sometimes. If the tomato will goes for 100 rupees, the government will come to control the price of tomato or any onion or any agriculture commodities. But why not government is not controlling the other commodities? Means that the time the farmers will get maximum price, but the government will be come to control the cost of that tomato, onion or mirchis, any vegetables or any other item, agriculture commodity. But why not government is not controlling now the steel or a cement or something is growing day by day?
Yeah, so my answer to that is government is doing that because government has a basket of certain commodities which are used by the humans or the households to live. If the basic necessities, the basket of commodities of basic necessities goes up beyond proportion, then what will happen is that the people will start starving, including you and I. So therefore, government intervenes and brings it down. Now coming to the point of why the cement prices and steel prices are not being controlled and why the housing prices are going up is a question of demand and supply at the end of the day. And what really happens is that there are factors which are controllable by us and there are factors which are not controllable. Like steel prices are international prices. Cement prices they're not produced only in India. Their cement is an open market, right? Similarly, when there is a more and more demand in the cities and urban centers, the cost is going up. Today, an acre of a land on 100 kilometers from Bangalore, I can give you a 20 lakhs of rupees an acre. But same land in Bangalore will cost you maybe 20 crores of an acre. So where is 20 crores and where is 20 lakhs? That determines why when there is a more demand. In fact, moment you start moving away from the urban centers, you will find that automatically the demand will go down. Do you know that today, after the pandemic, when 80% of the staff in IT companies now operating from their home, all the flats are lying empty, no takers. All the developers don't even have money to complete their projects. They're sweating. They've gone to the RERA and taken approvals to elongate their completion periods. So it's all about demand and supply. But as you earn more and more and start paying for these needs, because you determine what is the need for you. So it is a simple macroeconomics, demand and supply. If all the IT crowd, for instance, decides that you don't want to live in Bangalore, you want to live only 100 kilometers away from Mysore, Wayanad, Ooty and all that, and you will work from there, and once in a month you will come and report. Why you need to report? Are we reporting to each other physically now? When you have a client in US, you want to do video call. But when you are here in Bangalore, you want to come at 9 o'clock to the office and be there till 8 p.m. Who did determine these work practices and so on? People like you and I, somebody who thinks that knows HR. So I think something the pandemic has already disrupted, and more of it has to get disrupted by thinking originally and by demonstrating to people that your well-being lies in these routes and these paths, and not putting shackles around yourself and tying up your family and yourself. Today, look at a farmer. 60,000 rupees is a farm loan they get every year. They cannot even save 60,000 rupees. Do you know what is farmer's average income? I have a figure here, 6,300 rupees. That is a monthly revenue a farmer makes on an average. And 60,000 rupees that they take, their CIBIL score goes down. And when their CIBIL score goes down, no bank gives them any loan further. And then same money lenders go and say, okay, now I will give you money, but you pledge your land to me. That's how the farmers are losing their land. So I hope, Mr. Dinesh, that answers the question to an extent.
Okay, sir, but I partially agree with that. What happened means, sir, now the tomato price is very less, but no government or no one is supporting that, sir.
Sir, if the same farmer, you don't have farmers, government does not have to support tomato, but you have to understand, tomato in the farm in Kolar is at X price, but the same tomato when it's being delivered in Jayanagar, it is costing 2x. The farmer,
definitely, sir.
Excuse me, 1 minute, sir. The farmer, with the help of people like you and I, have to create their own transportation and logistics to come where the source and sink has to be closely looped together. I can tell you, today where I live, there are 3,000 apartments here. Do you know, one lady comes here in a small truck. She spreads in our car park area 20 different types of vegetables, okay, and comes only twice a week, and more than 500 families buy from them. I won't be surprised if our monthly income is closer to 5 lakhs of rupees. Why and how? So you can't say that, okay, this is my farmland, you do it. Please understand, traders have taken away all the money from the consumption center to the producing center. Larger the link you create with the market, so the source and sink, source where you produce and sink where you consume, unless either there is a linkage or the same people read. I was speaking to a Putri Agro FPO, farmer producer organization in a place called Gonikoppal in Kurg district. Today has somebody like you sitting there, and more than 200 farmers have become members of it. Look at their life conditions. Their income not only has doubled, but become 4 times. So you cannot say, what is government? Government is you and I. If you ask me personally, the political interventions which are happening to the farmers is the biggest problem. So educated people like you and I should free these interventions of some local gundas and other problem creators, because they are also not letting the farmers flourish. Please understand this.
Yes, sir. I also worked as an FPO CEO, sir, already.
There you are. So you know better than I know. So therefore,
yes, sir, I know very well. I'm asking that that is the main happening, sir. In wherever political intervention is there, for any subsidy will come, they will take. They don't give to real farmers.
Sir, the fact is that our education, you know how to make an application, go to the bank, you know how money comes, you know how the markets are. I think the farmer has been languishing because people like you and I, this FPO concept which has come by, farmer themselves are a member. They are sitting on the board meeting, so they are not the traders meeting. So you are the landowner, you are the product owner, you are the seller. So where is the problem? So I think these kind of oases have to increase. I just give you an example. Have you ever seen mandis, wholesale mandis? Every district.
Yes, sir, I had seen, sir.
Yeah, so if you see what happens at 3 a.m. in the morning before the day breaks at 4 a.m., people are sitting on top of a truck, and what are they saying? This truck is available with this product for this much money. They don't even open it. Bananas
Yes,
is
sir.
this, mushroom from Manali is this, potatoes from Mysore is this. Who is deciding this price? And do you realize that the broker who stands on the top of a truck is taking 2% of the value of the produce? Why can't I and you go at 3 a.m. in the morning and become this thing? Because there is a union there, and there is a office bearer, there is a president there. So it's a nexus. So but in e-commerce, if you create a platform and I want to get cut cabbage or say lettuce, is there any broker coming in between? No. I buy it from Big Basket. It is owned by Tata's today. So we need to create those e-commerce platforms. We need to create the rural entrepreneurship. We need to look at our small markets. We can't be all encompassing. Let the charity begin from home. Let it begin in the smallest area, then it will flourish and then it will multiply. I have seen the owner of Big Basket himself driving the truck 10 years ago. He lived in the same locality where I live. Big Basket. Today is taken over by Tata's. $1 billion company. How? How many of us are going to the farmer and sitting with the farmer? Why don't we buy few trucks and bring those tomatoes and start distributing in various areas in the urban centers? Please understand, what is missing is action on ground. We all are good in talking and writing on paper, but it takes a lot of energy, effort, time, resources, people management. And that's what we need to do. That's what I'm calling for. Right, sir.
Yes, Mr. Dinesh, I think it is, you have got your answer of these queries you have raised.
Yes, madam.
But what I want to add up that Government of India has taken, that is the reason why Government of India has come up with the agricultural laws and farmers in favor of the farmers. So why not you talk about those things? Which
I have here, madam, I have here a report. This is the document which is existing on Ministry of Agriculture. They have even changed the name of Ministry of Agriculture. They call it Ministry of Agriculture, Cooperation and Farmers Welfare. That is a new name. There's a new name of Ministry of Agriculture. There are 14 volumes of this. I would very strongly recommend that this 14 volumes be made as an integral part of our curriculum for our students to take some projects in these areas,
of course,
because this is the latest,
and that is for the farmer only, and those who are small and marginal farmers.
Correct.
So just to protect their interest, these laws have come. So as APO, I think you must be knowing, and I don't know why you are just insisting upon that 100 rupees tomato price and government is intervening. You should have talked in a reverse way. Okay, that is the different thing. Is there any other question? I have many questions and many queries to be clarified from you. So yes, Professor, yes.
So when you are muted, sir, you are muted.
So thank you, Mr. Nirmal Bhardwaj, for the nice lecture, and the data sets very good. It's very interesting and encouraging also. So this is very good. You have highlighted the phosphorus issue. So just it's not a question, just information. In India, we have almost 45 to 50 million hectares of paddy land. And out of these paddy lands, I can say at least 20 million hectares paddy land, they don't require at all any phosphorus applications, but farmers are applying. If you think of suppose 50 kg phosphorus per hectare, it comes around 1000 million kg of phosphorus we are wasting. That means around 6000 million kg of SSP that goes on waste, which is not at all required for this type of land. So no, I know, because we have done in our demonstration in our experimental farm and also farmers field, because in monsoon season, they need not apply any fertilizer because already there's a standing water, the lowland conditions, the phosphorus as such naturally available. They can do that one. This is one information. The second thing, regarding any alternative to DAP or the single superphosphate, yes. So what we have seen through organic way, as you have also highlighted, by having organic way and using natural minerals like rock phosphate or even the bone dust now is not available. We can blend it with organic and it can supply the phosphorus requirement of the crops without any additional chemical fertilizer. This is just an information for you. Thank you.
Sir, I completely agree with you, and I'm so grateful that you highlighted this. And I'm also aware, I've been in business for the last 40 years, I understand. And, when I was sitting in a school of management, we have this marketing book written by Professor Philip Kotler. And there is a concept called core product and an augmented product. Like, to just give you an example, the toothpaste that we use, you'll be very surprised to know that toothpaste, the content of it is not even 15% of the value that we pay for it. Rest of all, it is the packing, how it looks, how much goes into advertising. And I have no hesitation in saying that the quick fix that the chemical fertilizer industry has been doing in increasing the yield, if somebody was to do a financial analysis, it has done more damage to the soil and other things, and even water contamination and the leaching, which is happening much more. But question is, who will pay for it? When will they pay for it? Instead of subsidy, if I had a say in a policy making, I'm not saying it is not required everywhere. It is required somewhere where it is required, as you rightly said. So I think we cannot brush the whole thing across. These people are producing because they have factories to run. They have to make profit. They have P&L accounts and balance sheets. And our diversity of our requirements is so huge that academicians, the practitioners, and others, by workshops, training, etc., we need to educate our people. Otherwise, there are sellers and sellers. Somebody selling fertilizer, somebody selling seed, somebody selling micronutrients, somebody is telling buy tractors, and ultimately, where will the farmer pay for all this? Finally, in one way or the other, make losses. That's all, and get trapped into unsatiable debt for the generations to come. That's what happens.
Yes, true. Yeah, I completely agree with you. But we need the communication gap. There should be proper communication farmers and as extension persons. They should because that's what lacking in our country. Most of the technologies are not transferred to farmers' field. There's a big gap exists in the farmers and the scientists.
This is precisely, sir, what I'm trying to say, that today, if I take my Mac laptop and sit in some village of Andhra, and with a clear intention that I want to help all these people and myself, things will fall in place, because today they don't have a spokesperson. They need somebody who's a change maker, who's an ambassador of their cause. And that's where people like you and I will come in. A lot of educated people, once they permeate into the villages, away from the urban centers, this change will come about. And I think that is missing right now. Right. All so-called intelligentsia, educated professionals have segregated city and village. And I think we need to, city and village has to become a seamless continuity. The day that happens, everything will change, in my opinion.
Right.
Yes, any more questions? If not, then I will ask a few questions. So
yes.
You were talking about different crops and their cultivation. So I'm very much interested to go with the cash crop. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're very audible, yes.
Yes. So you have mentioned about tea, coffee, etc. And these are very zonal based, and in West Bengal or in eastern part of India, we are going for another very important cash crop that is called jute.
Yes.
I think you must be knowing that jute cultivation. So jute cultivation is another, and jute is also considered to be another very important cash crop. But as far as the jute industries are concerned, I don't know how far is your that informations are there. So most of the industries which are jute processing industries in West Bengal, one after another, they are just getting closed. And jute is not at all considered to be a very good crop, but it has got a huge industrial application.
It does.
So,
It does.
there are several jute research institutes in the eastern part of India, but then also no improvements are found in this particular area as far as this jute research is concerned.
Oh, no, it is there, madam. Let me just add on the jute part. When I was in
Just
Africa.
let me complete my question and then you please.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
So what I'm interested to know from you is that in which way R&D should be taken, or it is just research and development. It is an integral part of the total overall development. In which way it has to be driven so that this particular crop can be considered as an industrially viable crop.
Right. See, yeah, you still have any other comment, madam, or can I answer this?
No, yes, please. I have completed. Yes.
Right. See, just to give you an example, jute bags.
Yes.
Jute bags is a one idea, but do you know why jute bag is important? I tell you. There was a time when I was in Africa, in a country called Nigeria, and I was having a ginning plant. And I had a huge forward integration of spinning, weaving, and processing factories. Now, what happens is that when you say take cotton, and if you take cotton, instead of a jute bag, you take it in a polypropylene bag.
Yes.
When you take it in a polypropylene bag, if you go to a typical spinning factory, like in Ceylon or Jakarta or somewhere, they put all these bags of cotton in what is known as a blow room. When they do this in a blow room, now imagine if one strand of a polypropylene gets mixed with the cotton, it will get spun, it will get into the fabric, and then when you dye the fabric, that plastic strand will. Now, if you use polypropylene bag in a cotton industry, you will get millions of dollars of claims in the larger textile industry. So the jute bag, I personally have bought container loads of jute bags from Bangladesh, not from Calcutta, but from Bangladesh, because Bangladesh jute bags are even cheaper than what is produced in Calcutta, right?
Yes. Yes.
More than 50 container loads of jute bags brought into Africa and given to all our cotton pickers in the farm, because we didn't want them to use a polypropylene bag, because one bag getting into the blow room will lead to a huge claim to us. So likewise, like for instance, today in the tea industry in Munnar, we are using coconut coir to use what is known as a contour bunding. Jute can also be used. So jute, if it's compressed in a certain way, you can use it for a contour bunding in a tea industry, for instance.
I would like to add up that jute, not only that jute bag, it is restricted. Jute is also used for sari preparation.
Yes.
In a very costly sari, jute fabrics have been used, and it is a very costly sari.
Yes.
So it has got lots of application. But why then that industries are not viable? This is a big question to me. That where is the bottleneck, and in which way one should go, or that R&D should be driven so that this jute industry will be one of the viable industry like many other crops that a cash crop based
Fair enough.
products.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes. So I think the question there lies is that, as you rightly said, so who are the buyers of this type of jute? And the story will not end at a jute as a jute. One thing straight away I can tell you, looking at the concept itself, the jute fiber that will get into a sari will be so fine that you will figure out that when the jute is grown, perhaps that particular fiber, in terms of its tenacity or its micronear value, will be so thin, which will get into a sari, is very, very different. And we will have to figure out who are the people who are using it. Tanera, for instance, is a brand of a sari today, which is owned by Tata, and they do this thing. Lot of handloom saris which are coming from the northeast and even from Bengal. There are so many people who are marketing this in as a household marketing network. So I think the question is that we need to see who are the mass users of that, what are their requirements, and there has to be a closed loop backwards also as to what kind of a jute quality has to be produced, which can be used in these saris and whatever end use we can think of.
No, okay, so my next question to you is that you have very strongly said about this academicians and their pilot plant running and all this. So my next question to you is that in which way one academician should work to address the real problem which is actually happening in reality, to address that before it is disseminated to the industry for its large scale.
It's a very good question. Let me tell you, Professor Satish Bal, who was one of the professors in our department, when I was creating a rice processing mill again in Africa with one of the largest billionaire called Dangote Group, right? I was involving Professor Bal at that point in time. I sent him all the dossiers that you can ever think of in terms of color sorter from Buller and whichever company you can think of, large ones. And I told him, sir, you have spent decades of your life about rice. Please advise me what can be done on this. So here is my proposition. You have so many professors and so many researchers. They can write anything from A to Z, no problem. But I want to know which is that one or two key areas of the domain expertise, like which crop or which particular field. If you tell me 1, 2, or 3 areas, give me there just one page biodata. One single thing that I would like to do through my own network is to link these professors and academicians with the industry. Today, if you tell me that you have a professor who knows about coffee, I'm giving you an open invitation with 4 air tickets from Calcutta to Bangalore, all needs taken care of, and even a remuneration. But that professor will have to go to the coffee estate. We will give him a mandate, what our problem is, and then give us a solution. I'm not saying that the professor will give us a solution which can be implemented tomorrow. But definitely what I can't learn in 50 years on my own, that professor's domain expertise will be of immense help to me. Today, an IAS officer is enjoying all the perks and benefits in a coffee board who knows zilch about coffee. And here are the people coming from Europe to teach him how to get rid of a white stem borer. Is there any research happening? Please, I'm not talking about only IIT. We have a larger network. I'm talking about all agriculture universities with whom you may be interacting with. So, but obviously I can't go to everybody. I can only go to my alma mater. So if you tell me, madam, that today you have a professor who is expert in mango, I'm again giving you an open invitation. We have got 250 acres of mangoes growing of all varieties. Please tell me what type of a soil, what irrigation. I will send you all pictures. I will make you a board member of the company itself. And I will invite you. The point I'm making is that the wealth of a knowledge that you have, it is not being leveraged. I'm not saying as a matter of complaint. I'm saying our society, our system has failed. I, from the industry, immensely value this. And I want to work with the professors to learn from them as to how I can improve my yield, quality, best practices in agriculture, and how we can become a more and more professional company. So it's from that perspective I'm saying.
Yes. So my last question, yes, it is. By many of my colleagues are here, so they have also heard you. Yes. So yes, I think we will definitely interact, and we will just go ahead with this particular thing. My last question.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, if you are working in any engineering department, say for example, mechanical or chemical, or electrical, electronics, so that department and the industry which are there related to their departmental activities are a bit different from that of the industries which are there with our department, like agricultural and food engineering. Because in one hand we have the farmers who are the producers of these agricultural goods or the produce, and then it is getting processed in some other means. Sometimes it is done in a centralized manner, and many a time it is done in decentralized manner. Do you agree with me or not?
No, it's like this, madam. I'll tell you. I think it's like this. Why we have as agri and food engineers or agri scientists, we have not been assertive enough. We have not been articulate enough. I just give you an example. When I was working in a group, we used to have a lot of textile companies. So I went for one of these factories which was using cotton and polyester and viscose. I asked this guy, who's the general manager of this factory? They said he's a textile engineer. I said, okay. I said, you are a textile engineer. Where did you study textile engineering? He said, madam, I studied in IIT Delhi because only IIT Delhi has a textile engineer. I'm coming from IIT Delhi. It's okay. I said, you are using cotton. Do you know what cotton is? You are saying I'm a textile engineer, but your main component is cotton. Where is cotton grown? Is a textile engineer growing it? Do you know what seed variety is it? What is the, now I will tell you. In today, when you talk about cotton and you talk about commercial crops, I learned there is a micronear value of a cotton, there is a staple length of a cotton, there is a tenacity of a cotton, there is a B plus color index of a cotton. I didn't know this. I learned because I was dealing in a Liverpool cotton exchange. So I learned so much about this commodity. Then I asked this guy, okay, this machine that you're using, a ring frame or a autocoro or autoconer, this is an electronic components and mechanical component. Are you a textile engineer producing this? You are reading the screen, but this digital display which is coming, you only know to read this much, but you don't know how it is calibrated, how it is functioning. He said, yes, very true. So what has happened, madam, is that our agri and food engineers have not been assertive and articulate enough. Mr. Deepak Mane, a chemical engineer, is today heading an agri machinery factory called Buller in India, but our agri and food engineer is not handling. Why?
Yes, and this is my next question to you. I was thinking that
Yeah,
in
I
every
know,
system,
I
say
know.
in Mahendra, Tafe, and all this, when they are coming for the recruitment,
That
they are opting for mechanical, they are opting for chemical, but not
no,
why it is so?
But but Malika Srinivasan, who is a TAFE board member, is awarded a Life Fellow Award in Indian Society of Agricultural Engineers. Why? Is she an
Yes,
agricultural engineer? Is
yes,
she a life member? Huh? Why? Because she is a business family lady and somebody wants to acknowledge that. But our professor should not be a life fellow in Indian Society of Agriculture. And same Deepak Mane, just to give you an example, we're not discussing people, but we are discussing concepts. Now Deepak Mane, after chemical engineering, has gone to Zurich, Switzerland. And what has he become? He's become an HR manager. Where did he study management to deal with human resources in the? At the end of the day, madam, please remember this is all about articulation, is all about your ability to create opportunities. I'm an agri-food engineer. I was handling textile. I was handling real estate. I was handling glass making. I was handling agri commodities. I was handling aquaculture. At the end of the day, 4 years of my life in a domain expertise. I continue to be an agri and food engineer and I take pride in that. And I work so much in that area. But that does not mean I cannot deal with a finance professor or I cannot deal with a stockbroker or I cannot make my application to, you said rightly, you heard Professor Tiwari. I did the first entrepreneurial work for my department when I created that report, which I gave it to NABARD. I went there at my own expense. That was an entrepreneur who was taking the intelligentsia of my department. And I did not get that money. I got that money because I could value the talent of my department. If you see that report, which is there in your office, all your international papers are there. And I convinced the bar that why it is important for them to marry our department and set up this center. And you will see, potentially, you can create a corpus of 100 crores. All your professors will be busy day and night doing research. But you don't have any person who can articulate and take this entrepreneur. Everything is not a grant in ad to do only research. Do research which has a business value. That's what we need to do. And I think this is where people like me come in, and I definitely want to give my whole heart and mind to take this forward and set this as a precedence. So please don't get me wrong. I have immense respect and huge value. No, please. I want to say, let me tell you, I want to say that our professors and academicians should earn 5 times the earning what they earn in as by way of their salaries through consultancy. Today, look at the professors in IIMs, look at the professors in other universities, look at the professors in ISB. They come from today, a professor in America gets a salary of $120,000. I know this. In what way are my seniors, my faculty, my colleagues like your good self are any less? You are on par, if not better. Day before yesterday, I was speaking to Professor Mrinal Bhattacharya in University of Minnesota. He is my classmate. We are your students. You are our teacher. There is no difference. Whether it was 40 years ago or today, it is a stature, it is a chair you sit in. You are my teacher. I learned from you. And what I and he were discussing, he wants to give $100,000 to Agri and Food Engineering Department. How to give it? This is the next proposal. I will send you the mail. I will very soon set up a meeting with Professor Mrinal Bhattacharya and your good self and Professor Tiwari, and we will discuss this. He's coming here in January. I'll ask him to meet you. So we want to work with you, madam. And I sincerely believe that we who are your products of the department have to come back and pay back to our department. I want a lot of consultancy to come to you, a lot of new projects to come to you. I used to sit with Professor G.S. Sanyal where Arjun Malhotra set up the BLSA center. AC Pandya center has come up. I just received the message, right? So similarly, you people have architected our life, madam. We owe this to the department. We owe this to your stature, to your position. You are highly, highly valued to us. So I want to give this back from the industry. And the least I can do is, once you give me that 1-page note of each of the faculty, I will start interacting with them under copy to you. Everything will go through you because you are in the chair. And let's see what best we can do. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. My last question.
Yes, ma'am.
My last question is, as our department, and you have already mentioned, in which way the faculty of agricultural and food engineering department should interact with the industry, and what should be there in the back of their minds, and any advice you just want
yes,
to give?
I will tell you very frankly, because we are a family.
Yes.
And since this is a faculty there, I have only one submission to make. I think they should not be divisive. They should be very cooperative with each other. They should definitely they must interact with each other with dignity and respect and mutual cooperation. There must not be any groupism that I am a chair professor of this and I am of that and that. It's not like that. We are a family, and there should be a unified face. And I can clearly tell you, without mincing words, because I'm an insider, I'm a family, I'm a member of the family of Agri and Food. I am very unhappy with many of your other colleagues who have been so divisive. They have been so divisive that while I spearheaded the whole thing to NABARD, they tried to even cut me off even by not sharing the information with me. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's the reality of life. I have experienced this. The biggest bane that you have in the department is the lack of cohesion. Today you are in this chair, tomorrow somebody else will sit. But I'm so grateful to you that you've been so kind. Professor Tiwari, K.N. Tiwari has been so kind, so many other professors, but there is no openness. There is too much of a groupism. It is not only in our department. I think it is there in every single setup wherever we work. But I think the least we should learn to do is We should be colleagues. We should be friends. And there is so much to do. We should not be divisive. There is so much of work that you can't even imagine, madam. And I will humbly request all the members who are listening to this to support the person in chair completely. If Madam Rintu Banerjee is the leader, she is the leader, and therefore she will be supported 100%. Similarly, the other faculty members who are there, our respect for them, our concern for them, our opportunity creation for them are also equal. We will support everybody. So there's nothing like being a smart aleck. Oh, this aid is coming, I will give it to this researcher, I will do this. No, it should go to the most deserving person. And there must be a team. And I can tell you, madam is extremely inclusive. I have seen her. She is extremely inclusive. Professor K.N. Tiwari, I have interacted with him. I have interacted with Professor Babani Das at one time. I have interacted with Professor H.N. Mishra. I have interacted with Jaiti madam. Brilliant people. I must tell you that I'm so proud that you all are part of the same department. But my humble submission, please work as a one unified, cohesive team. Create a group of mails where we can exchange, and we in the industry. I will like why professors cannot be on the Karnataka Agricultural Task Force. Why our professors cannot be on the CII in the Agricultural Task Force? Why our professors cannot be advisor to the government of India in so many forums? So I think our vision is very large, madam, and I think we will like to work with you. We like to work with your colleagues. And only one submission: please make very cohesive team. You can have your differences as long as they're healthy, but to the outside world, at least without any grudges, I think we should be very one unified. I'm not an advisor. Don't get me wrong. Since madam asked, so I've said this. But I think this is important.
Yes, I'm also very open, and I'm just asking very openly.
Yeah, I hope it is taken in the right spirit, but I thought this was important.
Of course, yes. Yes. So thank you very much, Shubhro. Yes, Professor K.N. Tiwari has.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Nirmal, you had a very excellent talk, and as and when you have given talk, it has been always eye-opener for all of us, and you bring a new dimensions every time whenever you give that, yeah, we should work together. And you talk like an academician, not like, from the business family, and it gives, a lot of pride for us that, yes, you are doing excellent, and whatever you speak, whether it is in horticulture or plantation crop or on cotton or, coffee plantation crop, means many things you spoke, and you talk like a academician, and you talk like, what I heard when you were telling about the loss of natural resources like soil. We are losing huge amount of soil as a soil erosion. So many things you have given, and really it's a eye opener for us that, yes, we are doing independently different research, and all these are of very high quality research, but we should work together, and then we it needs persons like you to bring it to the public domain in the government level, that what we are, so that we can work with them. And there are, as you have told, there are a lot of opportunities, it exists, and we have, once we take up our things together in different areas. Say I work in the area of irrigation, then our other faculty, they are working on crop production, then somebody is working on the machinery side. So any agriculture system, it involves all these components, and when we work together, naturally it, and then food processing, we have value addition part, we are all doing work. Say I think that we started growing tea at our IIT campus itself.
Yes.
And our tea was of same quality as, because the from Assam, Jorat, they used to come and they visit, and they used to say that quality of tea at Kharagpur is at par with the what they are growing in Assam. So
Right.
such things were are happening. Only thing it needs, advertisement, it needs marketing, and persons like you, when you are there, I feel, yeah, we have a great future. And as you had been doing in the past, and we expect same thing from you. Thank you very much. I don't have question.
Thank
This is, a very encouraging remarks when you are speaking. It gives us, yeah, there is somebody who's talking about us and tell about, yes, we are having, the forefront in many places, but yes, it should be properly visualized, it should be properly, given publicity. Thank you very much, Nirmal.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for invitation. It's a pleasure being with you, and it's like visiting home. Thank you so much.
Madam, you are mute. Madam, you are muted, please.
So before I give it to Professor Shomshublo Chakraborty, I want to tell only one thing to Mr. Bhardwaj, that you should, I think you will also take it in a very, very positive spirit, that in a hand, 5 fingers are also not same. And
Yes.
again, we are just talking about so many faculty and intellectuals in one system. There may be some differences of opinion. It may happen sometime, but I can assure you, and when you will be coming, you will also experience that we are one family.
Very good.
We are a single family, and we are working together. And I'm trying my best so that we all can do something and something better. So that is why I wanted to tell this much to you.
I highly appreciate it, ma'am, and I look forward to working with all of you through you as the head of the department. Everything will come to you, and I want to actually humbly submit that all the family members should support the protocol and the structure that exists in the HOD, because I'm a person from organization. So I always believe that the protocol has to be respected, and that makes the leaders and the team's job easier. This was not a remark to say that something is missing. It is only to assure that it is very important, because see, going forward, once this pandemic comes down, I'll be bringing a lot of foreign visitors to come to the department. So there, what will happen, I will even be sending when I'm not there. I'm already speaking. I spoke to the government of UK the other day that please visit IIT Kharagpur and please visit our department. So as it is, you have so many tie-ups and relationships, but I want people to visit and strengthen and grow. That's how my aim is. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. So bye for now. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Shomshublo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bhardwaj, for your enlightening lecture, and also thank the participants who patiently listened the lecture of Mr. Bhardwaj for last 1.5 hours. And I also thank our head of the department, Professor Banerjee, and other professors who have joined and gave their thoughts on different aspects of agri and food sector. And I also thank Professor B.K. Tiwari, director of our institute, for being the chief guest of this in this event. And so by this, I call this online session to be concluded. And thank you again to all of you, and we hope to get your support in our forthcoming lectures in this lecture series, webinar series. Thank you very much.